Hello. Well, thank you everyone for having me. It's actually a quite pleasure to be with all of you here. I also want to thank you for joining this side event. I think that there's a lot of things happening right now in Singapore, so I appreciate you joining. And as the day passed by, you can see more and more familiar faces, including Aki. I'm actually happy that we connected yesterday. I'm going to make it short and sweet. My name is Mario Pazos. I am the head of marketing for Goat Network. And today we're going to talk about my favorite topic, which is Bitcoin. Let me start first with a raise of hands. How many Bitcoiners do we have in the crowd here? Okay, good, great, excellent. When I joined this project, and I just recently joined, I got really excited about the project because I'm a Bitcoiner myself. I've been in Bitcoin for the past 8 years. I've embraced the Bitcoin standard, and to me, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. And while the price of Bitcoin is appreciating, and that's great, what I really want to make sure is that I appreciate my stack of Bitcoin in Bitcoin. So today I want to talk about how is it that the Goat Network is going to do that. We will be a BTC-based decentralized financial system, and I think as we go along, that's going to become a little bit clearer. So let's start first with who we are and what we have done so far. What is our track record? So the Goat Network is a project incubated by the Metis Foundation that actually launched in 2021 the Metis Network, Ethereum Layer 2. Very successfully at the top of the 2022 market. It was layer 3, the top layer 2, the top 3 layer 2 on top of Ethereum. We're a team from pretty much everywhere, mostly Toronto, but also the US. And we have been backed by great venture firms, OKX Ventures, Amber, Crypto.com. You can see all the names there. The team is a very professional team. We like to break it down in 3 segments. The first segment on the left, from top to bottom, is essentially focusing on our economics, making sure that what we're building and developing is actually sustainable. The middle section is our tech team, world-class tech team. I've heard that the team at CKM, which is our partner, our sister company, helping us with the CK rollups technology on top of our network, is one of the best in the world. And then on the right side, you have our go-to-market team. I think we're joined here by some of the members of the network, so please feel free to reach out to us with questions. Annie, leading growth for the Asian market, is right here, similar to Dylan from our DevRel. So they tend to be very friendly. Please feel free to reach out to them, and me, of course, after the talk. So yeah, what we're building, we like to break it down in 3 sections. The first one is our tech stack right here, our economic layer, and our kind of go-to-market, let's say, segment. I can talk about this in detail, but I just want to start by saying, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? Why is it that we're here? And what we're trying to achieve is to allow people that hold Bitcoin, whether you are a small holder, medium-sized holder, or a big, large whale, to actually generate sustainable yield in BTC. For us to be able to accomplish that, I'm going to walk you through how we're going to do it. But essentially, that is our goal. So let's start first with the tech stack. What are we bringing to market? Well, the unique selling proposition for our network, and there are plenty of Bitcoin Layer 2s, I'm sure you're aware of that, is the fact that we're bringing a decentralized sequencer node network. I don't know how many of you are very technical. I wasn't myself at the very beginning, so I really needed to understand what does that mean. And what I learned is the following. Most of the layer 2s, whether that's Ethereum or Bitcoin, are being run by one sequencer that is usually run by a foundation. So all the revenue fees that are being generated by transactions that are originated in that network in terms of gas fees are being earned just by one sequencer node. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bring a decentralized network of sequencer nodes. At the very beginning, we aspired to have 7, but with the intention of going to dozens, hundreds, and at some point even thousands of nodes, and allow people to actually share the ownership of these sequencers, and as a result of that, be able to earn part of those revenue fees. So let's say I'm Amber, and I'm a sequencer node. I will be able to allow other people that hold Bitcoin to actually lock their BTC in our sequencer node, and then out of all the revenue fees that are being collected by the sequencer itself, let's say 80% of those fees go to the people locking their BTC, and the other 20% is being earned by the sequencer node operator itself. As a result of that, people that hold Bitcoin, again, small, medium, or large, will be able to generate return in Bitcoin because the token that powers our network is a wrapped version of BTC. So all the gas fees are actually being earned in BTC. So we bring, and we claim to be, the first and so far only Bitcoin layer 2 that brings a decentralized sequencer node network. And in addition to that, and no less important, because of the fact that we have the CKM team helping us with our backend technology, we're going to bring a roll-up solution to bridge, a trustless roll-up bridge, so that people can actually bridge their Bitcoin from the layer 1 to the layer 2. So I kind of walk through these 2 points. I guess the most important thing that I want to share with you before we go to the next topic is the fact that developing a decentralized sequencer network is actually not only important from a technical perspective because it allows for us to be able to offer sustainable yield, but most importantly, as a Bitcoiner, I want to make sure that the ethos of decentralization is not being lost when we actually scale and bridge to the layer 2. I think it doesn't make any sense to be working with the most decentralized secure network in the world, and then in the layer 2 we simply forget about that and go into a model in which the sequencer nodes validated transactions are centralized. It doesn't make any sense. It brings jurisdiction risk. It brings operational risk. No one wants to have their Bitcoin locked in a network that suddenly can be shut down. I don't know exactly why other networks are not really thinking very thoughtfully about this, but to me it just makes sense that a layer 2 should aspire to be as decentralized as possible compared to the layer 1. If we were to compare in terms of speed and cost, we might not necessarily beat other players in the secret rollup space like SP1 in terms of cost, but we do claim the fact that we're actually one of the fastest ones compared to companies like RISC-O and others. So that's the test stack, very interesting, definitely unique. Let's talk about the economic layer. So we have in our team a lead economist, happens to be a professor from the University of Toronto, happens to be around this area as well. And what he realized is that to run a successful network, there are a lot of players that participate from a layer 2. You have provers, challengers, publishers. You have them all listed there, right? It can be very expensive to run a layer 2, having all these different players. So what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to solve this challenge by somehow compressing all these different functions among the sequencers. So instead of having all these different players, the idea is that the sequencers will be able to conduct each and every single function that you can have or you have to conduct to be able to essentially validate transactions and sequence them and then put them in the layer 1 and so on and so forth. This economic model makes the sequencer nodes profitable, makes the network viable, and it makes the network be extremely cost efficient. And I think that's something that we consider is one of the most important things for any project to bear in mind, because it's not just a matter of being able to run a network efficiently, but it's even more important to run a network cost effectively, so the network itself can be sustainable in time. Many projects, and we have seen them all, come to market, they have a great hype at the very beginning, they at the beginning offer the yield, but it's not sustainable. To have sustainable yield, we need to make sure that we have a network that is cost effective so that we can essentially sustain that yield in the long run. And then last but not least, we focus on a go-to-market strategy that is going to be mostly focusing all the different use cases or applications or dApps that actually help generate transaction volume. So let's be honest here. For this network to be successful, we need to make sure that we allow people to transact with it and generate high transaction throughput and high transaction volume. So we're going to have your classical, collateral market yields, perpetuals, you name them. Nothing really special there other than the yield market. So this is actually a quite innovative concept. I have to say that I'm quite impressed by what our lead economist came and was able to ideate. And it's the following. As I mentioned, the sequencer nodes are going to generate revenue, right? Gas fees. So what we are going to do is we're going to tokenize those revenues in a product that we call YBTC. And the name stands from a yield-bearing token in BTC that essentially will have the principal, which is the BTC staked, but also the revenues that we're going to be earning as sequencer. as sequencer node operators or stakers, right? So this YBTC is essentially a yield-bearing token. It's going to be issued by the sequencer nodes through liquid stakers, so that if you have BTC, essentially the way it will work is you lock your BTC in one of these sequencer nodes, and in exchange of that, you can get this YBTC token that is a yield-bearing token that then you can use throughout the ecosystem. And the beautiful thing about that is that because it's a yield-bearing token, you're not just transacting with a collateral that is idle, but a collateral that is actually generating yield. So imagine if, let's say, you borrow against it, the collateral itself is actually growing in value as you actually use it in the ecosystem. So it's a very innovative idea. We believe that as a result of that, we're going to have significantly more activity in the network than others. And most importantly, it generates a very interesting flywheel, right? So let me kind of walk you through this very complicated graph, but once I do, I think it's going to become more clear. So let's say I'm BTC holder A, and I decide to lock my BTC in decentralized sequencer number 1, call it Amber, just to give an example. After that, Amber issues through an LST this yield-bearing token called YBTC. And then I use this collateral, this YBTC, to, let's say, I don't know, borrow against it and do some perpetuals. The beautiful thing about that is that generates transactions. But as I mentioned before, those transactions are being earned by the sequencer nodes. So it goes all the way back to the sequencer here, as you can see here. But that actually grows the value of YBTC. So essentially what I'm saying is, as we use the collateral, YBTC, that generates more transaction volume that gets reflected in the token itself. And as a result of that, you have a beautiful virtuous cycle that keeps perpetuating more and more value into the network. So we believe that this value proposition would actually be very attractive to bring a lot of users and a lot of liquidity into the network. And then, yet again, why is all this relevant? It's important because if we really embrace the Bitcoin standard and we really see Bitcoin as sound money, then what we want is to generate more. And the idea here is to make sure that we can help people realize that Bitcoin is not just a store of value. It's not just an idle asset. It can actually be used to conduct decentralized financial transactions, and as a result of that, being able to generate sustainable yield to all of us. Bitcoin itself is already something that we should be very thankful and grateful because it will allow us to be hedged against inflation and currency debasement. But we're trying to enhance this use case of store of value and bring Bitcoin as actually a utility that powers a network so that people can benefit from it financially, creating this sustainable yield. Our roadmap, we're launching testnet within this month. In the next 3 months, we are planning to launch mainnet. For those of you that are developers here, we're more than happy to welcome you and test the network. TGE is going to be in January next year, at the latest within the first quarter of 2025. And yeah, I mean, the most important thing that I want to leave till the end is, this is a Bitcoin layer 2. I kind of walk you through what that means and what we're trying to do, but it's just phase 1. The big vision here is to be an universal layer 2 for any layer 1 using our CK technology with rollups and entangled rollups, so that at some point we could potentially be integrated. Let's just dream. This is very aspirational, but let's just dream with Ton, Cosmos, Ethereum, you name it, so that the biggest challenge that we currently have in the industry, which is this fragmentation of infrastructure and therefore liquidity, can be aggregated through us by being, again, this universal layer 2 for any layer 1. So with that, I want to thank you once again for your time and for coming to the event. Encourage you to connect with us, whether you're an investor, developer, or the like. And again, thank you very much. Enjoy the conference.